In this video, what we're going to do is we're going to take each of those four formulas that we just did and we're going to put them in standard form so that we could get all that information we needed. So let's start with the circle. Here's its standard equation, and here's an example. Pause the video, write all this information down, and then we'll work this one together. All right, now to work this problem, what I'm going to have to do is I got to be very careful. You'll notice it's x plus y, and that's not how it's set up so far, so let's go ahead and do that. X squared plus 4x, let's go ahead and move this over, that becomes plus y squared minus 6y, and then I got to move the number to the other side. Okay, so I'm getting close. Now, it's got to be something that's squared. Well, I don't have enough terms here to factor this, so we have to do what is called completing the square. Now, what I'm about to show you to complete the square is going to work for all four of these conic questions, and here's how it works. We're going to take x squared plus 4x plus blank plus y squared minus 6y plus blank equals 3 plus blank plus blank. Now, this confuses some people. Basically, what we're going to do, it's sort of like when you balance something. If you had a person on one side and another person on one side, if you add a little person, then you're going to have to add a little person to the other side to equal it out. And that's what's going to happen. When we put numbers here, we're going to have to equal it on the other side. That's sort of the logic to it. To complete the square, what you're going to do is take half of that number, which is 2, and then square it. 2 squared is 4. Half of this number is 3. Squared is 9. Now what's going to happen is you're going to get x plus 2 squared. How do I know that? Well, I could factor it the old way, and I could two things that give me 4 that add to 4, and I would get the same thing. There's 2 of them, but since I already halved it, I already know what I'm getting. Half that number is going to be this number. Okay? Half of that is 3. So this one's going to be y minus 3 squared. Now, equals 3 plus, well, what did I add to the other side? A 4. And I also added a 9. And so the formula is going to be x plus 2 squared, y minus 3 squared. I'm going through this slowly. And when I add them together, 7, that's 7 and 9 is 16. Now, I can go back to the formulas I had a while ago, and I can figure out whatever I wanted. The center is going to be HK. And so when I go along, it's going to be the values that I get from each of those. And so since the formula says x minus h, and that's a plus, it's going to be the reverse sign of what I see. So the center is going to be minus 2. And since this says y minus this, okay? And so what it's going to end up being is just that. Since I don't need the negative, it's in the right form. This one wasn't in the right form. So it had to be, so really what it was x minus minus 2. That's how I know it's minus 2. Since this says y minus k, there's my y, so this is just a 3, since it's in the proper form. There's my center. So if you go back and look at the last video and the notes that you wrote, there's the center. If I wanted to do something like this, what's the area of this circle, which is pi r squared? Well, I know my radius, this is r squared, so if I take the square root, that's 4. I can take 4 there, okay, squared, times pi, 16 pi is my area. As soon as I have it in the right form, I know a lot of things about that. I could even use it in equations if I needed to, okay? But putting it in the right form and getting it correct. If I went a little too fast, back it up and watch it again, okay? That's a circle, okay? Next, let me erase. Let me get my general formula. The next one I'm going to do is a parabola, okay? And the formula for a parabola is either y equals a times x minus h squared plus k, or it is x equals a times y minus k squared plus h. And all I'm doing is repeating what I just wrote in the other video. So in this one, we're going to do a parabola. Now remember, a parabola, these are the ones that are going to touch each other at some point, whether it be vertical or horizontal. So let's take an example here and let's see what we get on this one. What if we had this one? 2x equals y squared plus 8y minus 3. Now that doesn't look like the one for a circle. because I don't have two of them that are squares. Okay, so in this case, I have the x's are squared, and in this one, I have the y ones that's squared. So I'm really going to focus on this one. I want it to look like that. Okay, so how am I going to do that? Well, if I try to, I'm going to have to complete the square. Let me just save time. If I try to actually factor this, I'm not going to get an exact square. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 2x equals y squared plus 8y plus blank minus 3, and then I have to add whatever plus blank is to the other side. So half of that is 4 times 2 is 16, which means I have to put a 16 over there. So 16 plus 2x equals y plus, what was half of that? 4 squared minus 3. Now, to get it in the right form, so it has to be x equals, so that means I got to move the 16 over here, so that becomes minus 16, okay, so it becomes minus 19, and y plus 4 squared equals 2x, divide by 2, so I need to divide all that by 2, so I can do them separately. That's divided by 2, that's divided by 2, okay? Now I have it in the right form. All I have to look back is at my notes, and the notes said that HK is your vertex, okay? So HK is your vertex. Well, if I look at this equation, H is that, so minus 19 halves, and it's supposed to be a minus sign, so it's the opposite of this. So this is really y minus minus 4, so it's a minus 4. And I just got it. And so when I have it in this proper form, then I know information about it. So my vertex, where they touch, is going to be at negative 19 halves and negative 4. Okay? Can I tell if it's a vertical or a horizontal? Well, this is vertical, and this is horizontal. Because x equals, so it's going to be on the x-axis, so this is going to be a horizontal. That's how you do a parabola. Okay? So after a parabola, again, we're just doing one example of each just to get them in standard form. Because if you if you get them into standard form, you got it figured out. Let's do an ellipse next. X minus h squared over a squared plus y minus k squared over b squared equals 1. A greater than b. Where the other one was x minus h squared over, b squared. And I'm just taking this right out of your notes that you have. And again, a is greater than b. And they both have to equal 1. Now that's tricky here. Okay? This is the horizontal version. And this is the vertical. Okay? So let's see what example we have. Let's say they give us something like this. X minus 4 squared over 16 plus y plus 7 squared over 9 equals 1. So let's figure out some stuff real quick. Do we need to change it? Well, it looks like it's in the correct form. I have a plus sign, and they're equal to 1. Is it the horizontal or vertical version? Well, it all comes down to the A. If this is the greater number or this is the greater number, it's obviously going to be this one. It's going to be a horizontal one. So this one, which is the ellipse, I need to make sure and write that on here so that we get that right. The ellipse. That means this ellipse is going to be longer on the x-axis than the y-axis. Now, the center may not be right here at 0, 0, but it's going to look like that. Now, it could. Let's see if we can figure this out real quick. Where is the vertex? By definition, or the center is HK. So let's look at our formula. H, are they both minuses? That one's not, so this is really y minus minus 7. So HK is going to be minus 4 minus 7. Okay? Minus 4 minus 7. So minus 4 and minus 7. Okay? So when I end up getting that, I'm going to take that value, I said that wrong, 4 minus 7. That's already the minus sign. I knew I was saying something wrong. I apologize. So 4 and minus 7. So it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, and then minus 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's my center. So it's going to be something in here like this. Okay, so it's not over the x-axis, but it is I drew my graph marks through it, it's longer through the x. And then if I wanted to get the major axis, which was 2a, well, what was a? That was my larger number. Since this says a squared, take the square root of that, it's 4. Okay, so 2a is 8. So that's how long this is. This is a measurement of 8. And then 2b is going to be what this distance is. So the square root of that is 3. So 2 times 3 is 6. So the answer of 6 is what that distance is. And so again, when you get it in the correct form or standard form, you can know all kinds of information about it. You can pick out a graph. You could draw the graph. Or if you did it on your calculator, you could tell if your graph was actually correct. One more. After the ellipse is the hyperbola. And so let's look at the hyperbola real quick. And again, I'm going to write the equation just so it makes sense. In standard form, it's going to be x minus h squared over a squared minus y minus k squared over b squared equals 1. And the other version is y minus k squared over a squared minus x minus h squared over b squared equals 1. Okay? And so the center is going to be h and k. And then let's see what we get on this one. Let's say we have one like this. 4x squared minus y squared minus 4y minus 20 equals 0. Okay? So I have to have squares on both sides. So I'm going to do what I did a while ago. I'm going to take 4x squared, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a minus, let's say y squared. I'm going to take a minus out. That's plus 4y plus blank, because I've got to have a square. The number has to go the other side. Okay? So I moved that over before I ever took the negative out. So that was plus 20. So that moved over here. So that was already gone. And let's say plus blank. So when we complete the square, we got to do it on both sides. And half that is 2 times 2 is 4. So I'm going to add a 4 to the other side. But that's a minus 4. So in reality, this is a minus 4. How do I know that's a minus 4? Because I took a minus out of all those. So in original form, it would have been a minus 4. So that equals 16 on this side. So 4x squared minus, because I have to have a minus sign, y plus 2 squared equals 1. How do I get 1? Oh, I got to divide by 16. 4 goes into that 4 times, so that is x squared over 4 minus y plus 2 squared over 16 equals 1. If I want the center, do I have it in the correct form? Well, this is really the same as x minus 0 squared, so that makes it easy. H and k, so that's going to be 0, and it's supposed to be a minus, so it's a minus. Okay, so that's a minus 2. There's my center point, 0 and minus 2, and I've got it. So what I have to figure out is, these are the ones that curve out or curve up and down like this. They curve away from each other, but they don't touch in the middle. So since this was, let's see, it was this equation, then I would know how to work it from there. And they can ask me any questions that I need to know. Okay? And so all I have to do is go from there. So my a squared, yes. Yeah, so I have this equation, and then I can work it from there. But there's the math. I've got it into standard form. I could find the center really easy. Okay? And so basically in my graph, wherever it curves, this point is going to be right between them. Okay? Whether it be vertical or horizontal, just changing of the signs tells me what to do. All right? So that's how to put things into standard equation so that you can answer any questions about it. In the next video, you'll get to try some of these on your own. Might have to have it in standard form first, but let's see how you do.